Greetings, everybody. Today we are talking about mental health or mental illness. South Africa has quite a high prevalence of mental illness, where about a third of the South African population has been diagnosed with a positive mental illness. Yes, about a third of the South African population are living or suffering from a mental illness. And remember, this is only the figure of those who have disclosed, those who have been positively diagnosed, those who have been admitted into psychiatric institutions. Now imagine the rest of the people who are suffering from mental illness and they are undiagnosed or they are not aware themselves. So which means that the numbers may be quite high. So mental illness, we must take it quite seriously in South Africa. And one may ask, what is mental health or what is mental illness? Let me start with stress. Everybody goes through stress each and every day of our lives, and that is quite normal. We all live stressful lives, but as long as you are able to manage your stress and you are able to contribute positively to yourself, to the community around you, to the workplace, then you are quite fine. But the problem comes when stress becomes so severe, it becomes so debilitating that you are unable to perform your normal duties. Like you are not able to contribute positively to your workplace, you're not able to contribute positively in your family, you're not able to contribute positively in your community, in the church, or whatever. That is where now we are starting to talk about mental illness. There are many mental illnesses that can be diagnosed. The most prevalent ones, we're looking at depression, anxiety, bipolar, substance abuse, psychotic disorders, personality disorders, you name it. It's quite a lot of them. But today I want us to focus on depression. So let's start with the causes of depression. Depression can be caused by genetics, genetic factors, your biological factors. What have you been pre-exposed to as an individual? What kind of a family have you been birthed in? Is it a family that is prone to depression? What is in your genes? So your genes may determine your predisposition to depression. Another thing that can make you become depressed is the chemical imbalance. So if your chemicals are not imbalanced in your system, it can cause depression. And when we're talking about chemicals, we're talking about serotonin, your dopamine levels, which are your feel-good hormones. So if your dopamine levels, if your serotonin levels are a bit low, then you may start feeling depressed, you may start feeling sad, and that is where we are talking about chemical imbalance that can cause depression. And another factor that can contribute to the causes of depression is socio-economic circumstances, the relationships that we find ourselves in, the society that we are living in. There's quite a lot of poverty in South Africa that can cause depression. People don't have. There's scarcity of resources. People are not happy in relationships. People are not happy in themselves. So all those socio-economic factors, they can cause depression. You may be suffering from depression and you may not be aware of it. So how do you know that you may be depressed? You can tell if you have depression, for example, if you are sad most of the time, you have low mood and you're just generally not happy. You don't look forward to the day and you just want to be locked up, in the house. That may be a sign of depression. Depression can also manifest itself where you have lost interest in activities that you usually were interested in. For example, maybe you used to be a soccer fan. All of a sudden, you don't feel like going to the stadium. You don't feel like watching soccer, You don't feel like watching TV. You don't feel like socializing. You just want to be on your own. So those periods of anhedonia, they can tell you that you are depressed. Another factor that can show you that you may be depressed is the intake of substances. Sometimes I know that especially the working class, people like to relax with a glass of wine after work. Yes, many people do that. But then with depression, you will find that your intake of substances increases. So instead of you taking that one glass of wine, you end up taking the whole bottle. Or you are not somebody who smokes. Then all of a sudden you start smoking, you start even doing hard drugs, for better or for lack of a better word. So it can show you that you are bordering on depression or you are depressed. Sometimes with depression, you find that you become very tearful most of the time. Sometimes you find that you are a bit impulsive or irritable, especially irritability. And irritability, we find it more with people who are trying to suppress their emotions. So instead of them feeling depressed or allowing themselves to feel depressed, they become irritable. So when you come across somebody who's irritable, who's easily angered, it may not just be simple irritability or anger. It may be a camouflage of depression. So yes, irritability, impatience, and when somebody is easily angered, those may be the signs of depression. Another sign of depression may be you oversleeping. Yes, sleeping too much may be a sign of depression. Also, sleeping too less is a sign of depression. So there must be a balance in life. I think if you can sleep 6 to 9 hours a day, that is pretty normal. But anything beyond that and below that, it may be a cause for concern. Another thing that can show you that you are depressed is the change in appetite. Are you eating too much or are you eating too less? Because with depression, your appetite can be increased, and that is where we talk about you are feeding on comfort food. So the food is making you is sort of like trying to numb the emotional pain that you are feeling. You are eating, but you don't get full. That is why you're constantly eating. So either you're overeating or you are undereating. That may be a sign of depression. And another important one is the feeling of death. Sometimes you may want to commit suicide. You may actively try to commit suicide. Sometimes you may just have thoughts of dying, But then sometimes you may feel that you don't want to kill yourself, but you just feel that you can just die. Maybe a car can just hit you, or the world can just divide so that it swallows you. That kind of a scenario. That is when you should be concerned that you might be suffering from depression. Those are just some of the symptoms of depression. So if you do suffer, or if you have identified any of the symptoms that I spoke about, please do seek help. But then what I would encourage you to do to help yourself is that no matter how you are feeling, make sure that you get up, take a bath, force yourself to get out of the house. Because the more you are in the house, is the more the depression is going to be severe upon you. So make it a point that you get out. Go and breathe in fresh air. Go out, see new scenery. And that helps the mind also to get out of the depressive state. Also, what you can do, consult your psychiatrist, consult your psychologist, get somebody that you